Today, let's look at mismatch in number, cohortative, and Veqatal. Let's begin by looking at mismatch in number and noun. Up until this point, what you've seen is when a number modifies a noun, the number being more than one, the noun will occur in the plural. And this is just like English, right? One man, two men. Today, we're going to be looking at a quirk in Hebrew where the number will be greater than one, but the noun will occur in the singular. And this appears to be limited to a select group of nouns that regularly do this, more often occur in the singular than they do in the plural. Number one, Kahu lachem shnei asar ish. Take for yourselves 2 of 10, 12 man. You may expect anashim, but it's just ish. But you'll go ahead and translate this men. This point today, there's no exegetical payoff in noticing like, hey, it only occurs in the singular when I would expect plural. This is really, truly just one of the quirks in Hebrew syntax. Why is it that it licenses the singular form where the semantics require you to interpret it as a plural because of the number? And why is it relegated to just a certain group of nouns? You may be a budding linguist if you won't be able to rest until you find out the answer to this obscure question. Number two, let's look at some more examples. Yihyu ro'im bamidbar arba'im shana. They will be shepherds in the wilderness 40 years. You'd expect shanim. Number three, Vayehi hamabul arba'im yom al haaretz. And the flood was 40 days on the earth. You may expect yamim, but it just occurs as yom. So today, the only point is some nouns, like ish, like shana, and like yom, regularly occur in the singular form even when they are modified by a number greater than one. Next, the cohortative. Let's begin by looking at a few points: meaning, translation, and form. Let's start out with meaning. It is a first-person exhortation. A cohortative is relegated to first-person forms. It's in the same semantic family as the imperative. Imperatives are only second-person forms in Hebrew. Cohortatives are first-person forms. So it's kind of like you're giving yourself a command. How would you even translate that? A starting point would be let me or let us do something. Here I have me and us because they're first-person forms, whether singular or plural. I say this is a starting point. Maybe you want to say I shall do something or something like that. Next, form. How do you know you're looking at a cohortative? Well, it'll be a first-person Veqatal form, either the ani form or the anachnu form, with a kametz he ending. So, as an example, here are the ani and anachnu forms for lakach yikach in the Veqatal. Ekach means I will take, and nikach means we will take. How about forming a cohortative? For ekach, add the kametz he, and ekcha means let me take or I shall take. And nikach becomes nikcha. Hey everybody, let's take something. All right, what about looking at a couple verses? Example 4. This is someone in the book of Deuteronomy that you're supposed to stone. Whoever comes alongside you and says, Nelcha ve'na'avda Elohim acherim. Let us walk and let's serve other gods. where this is your anachnu form because it begins with a nun prefix. And you know you're looking at a cohortative because each of these end with kametz he. And finishing off with example 5, here are ani cohortative forms. Akuma ve'elecha ve'ekbetza et kol Yisrael. I shall arise, and I shall go, and I shall gather. Here this is from Kavatz Yikbots, on the same card as Asaf Ye'esof. I shall gather all of Israel. So here's the point today. Cohortative only occurs in the first person. They're your first person Veqatal forms, but with the kametz he ending, and it's different from Veqatal. Veqatal default is just will, and cohortative is shall or hey, let's do something. And finally, Veqatal. Here, we're rounding out our discussion on the 4 major conjugations in Hebrew. You have katal, Veqatal, Vayeqtal, and Veqatal. And in a sense, these are really just 2 groups of conjugations. I've said before that Hebrew has this dichotomy split between perfective aspect and imperfective aspect, where perfective, a completed action, that's covered by katal, and then it's carried along by the consecutive form, the Vayeqtal. And imperfective aspect, that's not completed, is begun with the Veqatal, and it's carried along by a Veqatal. I've also said that as far as the look of these consecutive forms, it looks like you have this mismatch where you begin with the Veqatal and you add a vav prefix, and that magically converts it into perfective aspect. Or you begin with a katal and you add a vav prefix, and it magically converts it into an imperfective aspect. Here I'm not making any claims about how the consecutive forms, the Vayeqtal and the Veqatal, were historically derived, but noticing the similarities between Veqatal and Vayeqtal and katal and Veqatal really helps for recognizing these consecutive forms. So, as a chart here, I have the hem forms for to speak. The katal hem form is amru. The hem Veqatal form is yomru. Why did I choose this form? I may or may not be helping you out a bit with one of your scavenger hunt questions. So let's play this game about how do you derive the Vayeqtal from the Veqatal. Well, you add the prefix, which is a vav, patach, and then a dagesh chazak. This is the doubling dagesh. And what you have is vayomru. Now, as far as this prefix, here we can tell that the Vayeqtal is indeed a unique conjugation distinct from the Veqatal because it's not simply adding a vav, because the vowel is a patach and you have the doubling dagesh. So this yod is counting for 2 yods. So we can tell here just in form, okay, this is a distinct form from the Veqatal. And actually, indeed, the Vayeqtal is not derived from the Veqatal. But that's a far more complex conversation that we can have another time. The more controversial is the Veqatal. So you start out with amru, and your prefix is indeed just a vav plus your expected vowel, the shva, and what you have is ve'amru. Say controversial because there's no look, at least in form, that the Veqatal is indeed a distinct conjugation from the katal. Couldn't this just be they said and then here and they said? Why am I saying that the Veqatal is really in the same tense aspect mood family as the Veqatal? One, we can see that the Veqatal is a unique conjugation because it regularly induces accent shift. So you said as a Veqatal form, usually regularly the accent is second to last syllable. So amarta. Whereas the Veqatal forms for these kind of verbs, the accent is on the final syllable, ve'amarta. So Veqatal forms are regularly accented on the final syllable. And that's one clue that it is a distinct conjugation. The other clue is just tense aspect mood. It doesn't match up with Veqatal forms. It matches up more with Veqatal forms. So, and specifically, the sense of a Veqatal verb is derived from whatever it's attached to. Remember, I said it's a consecutive form. So what it attaches to can give it many different nuances. Number 6, because it's begun, this sentence is begun with an imperative, the Veqatal form takes on an imperatival sense. Here's the Shema. Beginning, Shema Yisrael ve'ahavta et Adonai. So, hear, O Israel, blah, 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 and you shall love Yahweh, where here is a command, and love is also a command because it's linked to this imperative. All right, what if the sentence is not begun with an imperative, but with a Veqatal? Well, then it takes on whatever sense that Veqatal has. And here we have a prophecy where this is just your simple future tense that you have. So, Nachon yihyeh har beit Adonai ve'halchu amim rabim. Established will be the mountain of the house of Yahweh, and they will walk. Who will? Many peoples will walk. And let's close by looking at a couple more examples. Here we have another example of a Veqatal verb carrying along an action begun by a Veqatal verb, but here Veqatal is not simple future, but it has a sense of habitual past tense. Let's read it. Yered amud ha'anan ve'amad petach ha'ohel. So here we are in Exodus 33, recounting what would happen during the Israelite wanderings whenever they would make camp. The pillar of the cloud would come down, and it would stand at the opening of the tent. So I said this is habitual past tense. It's something that would happen again, again, again in a past tense context. And for this kind of verbal action, Hebrew never uses Veqatal because Veqatal is perfective aspect. It talks about a verbal action that is complete. It did happen. If you want to say it used to happen or it would happen, then you have to use Veqatal because that's the imperfective, non-completed action that you're looking for. Because this action is happening again and again and again. It's just that it's past tense, but the past tense, that's coming from the context. So it's really only looking at broader context that you know this is past tense. Number 9 is an example where a Veqatal verb simply is just a vav plus Veqatal. So it doesn't have the tense aspect mood information that you'd expect of a Veqatal verb carried along by a Veqatal verb, but here this is just vav plus Veqatal. Yisrael ahav et Yosef ve'asa lo ketonet, where I pronounce this ve'asa, where the accent is here. I've said that Veqatal verbs are regularly accented on the final syllable. But here is an example where even the Veqatal form would regularly be accented on the final syllable. This is the hu form of this, so asa. Why is it ve'asa? Here, it's because this word has an accent, and Hebrew wanted to avoid stress clash and having the accent here as well, because then that would be 2 syllables in a row that are accented. So this word's accent got shifted 1 syllable prior, ve'asa. So noticing this as just a vav plus katal form is not so much a matter of word accent, but context. One, you have katal here, so you would expect vav plus katal. But even more than that, just reading it, at least I can't make any sense of this other than just being simple past tense kind of aspect. So Israel loved Joseph, and he made for him a robe. I can't say he would make for him a robe, or he used to make for him a robe, or he will make for him a robe. So this is how I deal with Veqatal. When I see what is a vav plus katal in a context, my first instinct is to treat it as a Veqatal, as carrying along a chain by a yictal or an imperative, and it takes on the tense aspect mood information of that yictal or imperative. And only if I can't treat it as a Veqatal do I interpret it as a vav plus katal. And Genesis 37:3 is one of those examples.